Hi, my name is Kirsten Safakis, and I am a Community Involvement Coordinator for the United States Environmental Protection Agency. I would like to welcome you to this virtual presentation regarding the proposed Statement of Basis for the Amphenol Franklin Power Products site. For those of you who have attended any other EPA public meeting, you can see that we have had to adjust our meeting format in an effort to ensure public safety during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Interestingly enough, over the past 2+ years, we have found these virtual formats to have many benefits, including the ability to rewatch presentations and share them with your neighbors. With that in mind, we hope that you will find this presentation and our outreach methods helpful and informative. An in-person public meeting will still be held on June 9th, 2022, featuring the same presentation. The purpose of this virtual presentation is to provide some background on the Amphenol Franklin Power Products site and the work that EPA has overseen there. We will provide you with details about the investigation as well as the cleanup plan that is being proposed as a result. The purpose of every EPA Statement of Basis is to gather the public's comments and their questions about the proposed cleanup. After a 45-day public comment period, we will provide responses in a final decision document, which will also confirm our cleanup plan. We recognize that you may have questions regarding the proposed cleanup plan after watching our presentation. EPA project contacts will be available in person to answer these questions on Thursday, June 9th from 6 to 7 p.m. at Franklin City Hall, located at 70 East Monroe Street in Franklin. A formal public hearing, where you are invited to provide comment on record, will follow at 7 p.m. State of Indiana COVID-19 protocols will be followed during the event, which are subject to change without notice. There are many additional ways you can submit your questions or comments to the EPA. First, you can submit a comment directly on this website. Next, you can leave a confidential voicemail at 312-919-4621. You can email me at safakis.kirsten@epa.gov. That's S-A-F as in Frank, KAS.KIRSTIN@epa.gov. Or finally, you can mail me a hard copy statement to Kirsten Safakis at the US EPA's External Communications Office, located at 77 West Jackson Boulevard, EC 19J, in Chicago, Illinois 60604. The deadline is June 30th, 2022. We will now start our presentation on the proposed cleanup, and I will hand it over to our EPA project managers, Chris Black and Valerie Voisin.
Hi, I'm Chris Black, US EPA Record Corrective Action Project Manager. I want to explain the law that applies to this cleanup. The law is RCRA, or the Resource Conservation Recovery Act, that applies to the cleanup, and in particular, the part called corrective action. Corrective action covers cleanups from releases from treatment, storage, and disposal facilities, or TSDs. To make the company clean up, a legal order is negotiated between the company and EPA to deal with the release and the hows to clean it up. EPA's role is review and oversight of the cleanup process, and the company agrees to follow the cleanup process and pay for the investigation and cleanup. The site is in Franklin, Indiana. We put the map up here, although some people are familiar with the site. But for those of you who are not so familiar, Franklin is south of Indianapolis. The map with the closer view shows that Franklin is east of I-65, and the Amphenol facility is 1 mile northeast of the downtown area. It used to be a Bendix facility and is about 15 acres. In terms of boundaries, Hurricane Road is to the east, Hamilton Avenue to the south, a rail line to the north, and to the west-northwest is the Farm Bureau and Arvin. You can see on the small red box on the map the study area. In terms of a brief background of the site, Bendix operated from 1961 to 1983. An EPA started to be involved with a record order in 1990. The order covered the releases from metal fabrication, including the plating operation. The RCRA Facility Investigation, or RFI, identifies where the contamination is, and the Corrective Measures Study looks at how it's going to be cleaned up. A pump and treat system was put in place to control groundwater, and an interim final decision order was completed in 1998. It's important to understand the contamination source, and you can see it on the map in the blue area, which indicates the main concentrations of contamination of chlorinated solvents on site. The map specifically shows PCE concentrations in shallow unit B. The source is from the plating operations where some of the solvents leaked out through the sewer cracks and joints and into the soil and groundwater around the site. Later in the investigation, it was realized that the leaks also migrated off-site within the sewer and the soil around the sewer as a conduit. We'll talk about that in upcoming slides. Here's another graphic that kind of shows a similar thing in a different way. There's the original order from 1990 with investigations and pump and treat system installed. A 1998 order which improved the pump and treat system and added some additional pump wells and monitoring. In 2018 and 2019, additional vapor investigations were conducted, looking at the secondary source from the sewer. You can see some testing going on in the photos on the right. The interim measures taken to address groundwater is the pump and treat system. Withdrawing water from the pump wells keeps the groundwater plume within the property boundaries. As it is pumped out, the groundwater is treated and cleaned and then sent into the sanitary sewer. The area's investigation include many samples both on and off-site. Listed here are 92 soil borings, 53 temporary off-site wells, 43 MIP borings, and 21 permanent wells. The site map shows areas investigated surrounded by the black boundary, and the close-up map shows the on-site areas and multiple locations of various wells and borings. The Membrane Interface Probe, or MIP, looks at the concentrations of the VOCs in a detailed profile with depth. The Hydraulic Profiling Tool, or HPT, tells us how readily the subsurface takes water. So it tells us where there are high permeable zones and low permeable zones. Both sets of information give us a nice detailed example of the subsurface. The MIP probe is on the figure on the left and the HPT probe on the right. The groundwater plume is shown here. The plume is the map of the contaminants in the groundwater. The contaminants are indicated with the blue color. The contaminant on this map is trichloroethylene, or TCE. The darker blue indicates areas of greater concentration. The results from the groundwater monitoring wells have defined the extent of the plume down Forsyth Avenue. How do contaminants go from the soil and groundwater to vapor? The site conceptual model helps us understand that. One path is the contaminants in the soil get into groundwater and can release vapors. Another path is contaminants in the sewer lines and the surrounding soil can release vapors. These vapors can potentially enter homes through the sewer lateral connections or through cracks in the slabs or basement floors. Specifically, the source of VOCs can be a conduit, such as the sanitary sewer. The main is located below the street, and the lateral connections connect homes to the main. The conceptual model for vapor intrusion in the conduit is shown in the figure. Cracks in the sewers can allow contaminant sources from the trench soils surrounding the sewers, as well as from the groundwater below the sewer. Again, as the model shows, these vapors can potentially travel through the sanitary sewer laterals into homes. Risk evaluation, in general, looks at the way contaminants can get into people. The three basic ways are either breathe it, absorb it, or ingest it. Risk assessors also consider whether it's a home or work exposure, the contaminant type, the concentration, times of exposure, and often many other factors. The risk pathway focused on here is the residential inhalation risk. The studies conducted since 2018 investigated the indoor air of many homes in Franklin. The investigation results resulted in actions known as interim measures. These eliminated or greatly lessened the risk from vapor intrusion. We'll summarize those in the following slide. The other potential pathways are for on-site workers during construction or excavation. During that relatively short time frame, they may breathe dust or vapors, touch soil or groundwater, or ingest soils. These workers are at low risk because health and safety rules require them to wear protective equipment. Here we detail the interim measures for vapor intrusion risk. 42 homes were identified for indoor air testing. Of those 42 homes, 37 folks granted access to their home for testing. In addition to vapor testing, the integrity of the internal plumbing was tested. The response to this testing was vapor mitigation systems installed in 7 homes, where soil, gas, and/or indoor test results exceeding screening levels. In addition, plumbing system repairs were completed in 9 homes. The other responses were to replace cracked sewers or to reline the sewers to fill in the cracks. The replacement pipes are made from PVC that is much less likely to crack and can be more easily sealed between pipes. In addition, many laterals that go from the sewer main to people's homes were replaced to eliminate the vapor sources. A view of some areas of the site can be seen here. The pump and treat system exterior and interior and some well locations are shown. Let's go over the terms for each cleanup alternative. The term institutional control refers to a legal document that restricts land use or the use of resources. Land can be zoned commercial, industrial, for example, or groundwater wells can be restricted in certain areas. Deeds can include these restrictions, or zoning laws could apply. In-Situ basically is a term meaning in place or within the ground itself. In-Situ chemical oxidation injects oxidants to break down contaminants. The end products of the breakdown are less toxic. In-Situ chemical reduction uses a variety of additives in a permeable reactive barrier, or PRB, defined below, to do a similar process in breaking down contaminants. The permeable reactive barrier breaks down the contaminants as the groundwater flows through it. Lastly, monitored natural attenuation is a process that decreases contamination concentrations over time through natural processes. Now, Valerie will explain in greater detail the groundwater cleanup alternatives.
Let's go into more detail on these cleanup alternatives. One of the alternatives for treating VOCs is in-situ chemical oxidation, or ISCO. ISCO works by injecting a material into the ground to treat both soil and groundwater. A chemical oxidant is used for injections that may include activated persulfate, hydrogen peroxide, and permanganate. The figure on the right depicts this remedy, showing the pumped oxidant in blue reacting with the dissolved contaminant in pink. Following oxidation with the injection material, the VOCs are chemically destroyed or broken down into less harmful versions. This technology has been successfully utilized beneath the former plating room area and achieved significant source reduction. ISCO has been proven effective for reducing the concentration of VOCs for this site and the study area. Next, let's dive into what in-situ chemical reduction, or ISCR, entails. ISCR uses injections of reducing agents to chemically change contaminants into less toxic or less mobile forms. This remedy is similar to ISCO, but with a different application, and is especially effective at cleaning up TCE. The figure on the right depicts how ISCR works when injected into a permeable reactive barrier, or PRB. Injections of reactive material are placed underground in the form of a barrier. Groundwater flows through the PRB, and the injected material reacts with contaminants, breaking them down as they move through. The barrier contains zero-valent iron, or ZVI, or a carbon substrate product known to chemically break down VOCs into less toxic forms. A pilot study in October of 2019 tested this remedy in 2 areas off-site and has been proven effective. The last portion of the final remedy options is monitored natural attenuation, or M&A. This remedy relies on natural processes to decrease or attenuate concentrations of contaminants. M&A works by biodegradation, sorption, dilution, evaporation, and chemical reaction. The figure on this slide depicts several ways that M&A attenuates VOCs naturally. Biodegradation uses microbes to change contaminants into water and gases. Sorption occurs when contaminants bind to soil particles, thus decreasing movement. Dilution with groundwater and evaporation of VOCs are also components within M&A that reduce the concentration. M&A must be tracked with regular monitoring and statistical analysis of trends and data to support its effectiveness. M&A, in this application, is used alongside the other remedy options and will degrade VOCs naturally.
Cleanup alternatives were evaluated and separated into two parts, the on-site and off-site alternatives. There were 5 alternatives considered for on-site and 4 for off-site. Some of these alternatives can be combined to get the optimal remedy. EPA's evaluation of the remedy uses 2 tiers of criteria. The initial criteria is the first cut and is called the threshold criteria. Once an alternative passes the threshold, it's evaluated using the balancing criteria. The balancing criteria are used to identify major trade-offs in the remedy alternatives. The community and state input are encouraged during the comment period. To propose remedies, EPA has goals called corrective action objectives. These objectives are used to guide the remedy choices. The short-term goal is to get groundwater below levels that make vapor intrusion possible. The long-term goal is to get groundwater to reach drinking water standards. To get at the source, we want soils on site below levels that contribute to groundwater. Now we're at the proposed remedy. We went over a lot, and this is the part where we encourage comments. For the on-site remedy, the sequence of the remedies are listed here. First, a permeable reactive barrier will be installed down gradient of the property boundary along Hamilton Avenue. Then the groundwater recovery system will be turned off when doing the injections. We don't want to have the amendments in the ground sucked up through the recovery system. If this remedy proves effective in reaching objectives, the pump and treat system will be decommissioned. High concentrations of VOCs on site will be treated with injections, initially ISCO and then possibly additional methods. When sample results come back, we'll see if we met our goals, and if not, do another round of injections until we get to the corrective action objectives. The off-site proposed remedy includes the permeable reactive barrier, which will be installed along the right-of-way, primarily along Forsyth Street. To get to the short-term groundwater objectives, it may require additional injections. In addition, continued monitoring over time will be done to see how the natural attenuation is advancing. The goal there is to reach long-term goals back to drinking water quality standards. This is a dynamic remedy. An evaluation of remedy performance will be done, and additional enhancements to the remedy over time are likely to reach the goals. Thanks for your attention. Kirsten's going to tell you about the next steps.
Thank you for viewing this virtual presentation. As mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, there are multiple ways to submit your public comments on this proposed cleanup plan. You can submit a comment directly on this website. Next, you can leave a confidential voicemail at 312-919-4621. You can email me at safakis.kirsten@epa.gov, or finally, you can mail me a hard copy statement to Kirsten Safakis at the United States Environmental Protection Agency's External Communications Office, located at 77 West Jackson Boulevard, EC 19J in Chicago, Illinois, 60604. We also invite you to participate in our public meeting on June 9th at Franklin City Hall, where you will be able to verbally make a comment on record starting at 7 p.m. And of course, if you have any questions or need assistance with submitting a comment, you can contact either myself, Chris, or Valerie. Thanks again.